of our Elephant webcasts, expanding access through collaboration, Stanford, Yale, and copyright review. I will remind you, we are recording this session for all of our members who are in different time zones and not able to attend. I'm going to turn it over here to Jessica Rohr, our member engagement and communication specialist, to give you a few instructions before we get started with Daniel's presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone.
All right,
Thank
Jessica.
you for joining us. All right. Can you hear and see me? All right, so thank you everyone for joining us for the second of the member webcast series, Mapping the Elephant. We're very excited to have Daniel Dollar here today. And as you'll recall, the Mapping the Elephant series is a new webcast series by members and for members. So everything that you hear in this whole webcast series really is about how members are benefiting from HathiTrust in their learning, teaching, research, and institutional missions. So one of the core mission of HathiTrust is through collaboration. Pretty much everything we do is because all of our member libraries are working in consort to accomplish their goals and our goals. So Daniel Dollar here has a great example of this, and I will now turn it over to him.
Hello.
So chat, let me quickly say that if you have questions at any time during his presentation, you can type them into the event chat window, and we will answer them at the end of his presentation. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Melissa and Jessica. It's a pleasure to be a part of this webinar series, and hello to everyone who's joining in today. So the title, Expanding Access Through Collaboration, Stanford, Yale, and Copyright Review. So, the Copyright Review Program marshals cooperative action to address a lack of knowledge about the copyright status of our collective collections. And as noted on the program websites, since 2008, more than 50 reviewers at 22 libraries have reviewed over 600,000 items and determined that 320,000 and counting are no longer protected by copyright and have entered the public domain. And supporting this program and finding ways to engage with it is something that I've been talking to my colleagues at Yale for a few years about how we might go about that. And as part of those conversations with colleagues across the Yale library system, was running into challenges about identifying staff who could easily be assigned to do this work. But in the process, I was able to secure some potential funding for it. So in short, we had some funding, but we didn't have anyone or ones identified who could take on this work. So I was scratching my head about it, the few hairs I have on my head, scratching along, trying to figure out a way forward. And I raised this dilemma of money, no people, at an Ivy Plus collection development group meeting in fall of 2017. And at that meeting, Matt Marostica, Associate University Librarian for Public Services and Collection Development at Stanford, said he might have a solution. So Stanford is a program participant. However, their reviewer, Judy Marsh, who had extensive copyright review experience, was preparing to retire, but wished to continue this work in retirement. And they didn't have someone lined up to sort of take her place on the staff. So Matt and I got into a series of conversations talking about how we could possibly team up to support the program through a joint funding arrangement. And we would fund Ms. Marsh to spend up to 20 hours a week conducting copyright reviews. So since we started this arrangement, so she retired, and then we began this arrangement in July of 2018. So between July 2018 and August of last year, Judy has conducted 8,813 reviews with 5,300 items and counting entering the public domain. I just had the numbers run for the past calendar year, for the calendar year 2019, and during that time period, there was 4,600 reviews conducted by Judy, with 2,841 resulting in public domain determinations, or about 61% of the reviews. So I know those numbers are overlapping, but that gives you a sense of the amount of work that Judy's been able to accomplish through this effort. So I think it's a great example of how two institutional members have come together to collaborate to further the mission of HathiTrust. And I would just say you can do this too. I understand that similar arrangements may be possible. Others who are retiring, or other institutions who may have funding but are struggling with identifying folks on their staff who could do this type of work. So I would encourage you to talk to Christina Eden Hall, the Copyright Review Program Manager, to know more about that. And I'd just like to thank Mimi Coulter. She's the Deputy University Librarian at Stanford, Matt Marostica, and Susan Gibbons, the University Librarian at Yale, and particularly Judy Marsh for her work. So those are my thank yous, and we'll just move on to see what questions people have.
Again, you can go ahead and type those questions into that window, and I'll read them aloud for the sake of the recording. I am not seeing any questions so far. Oh, here we go. I lost my, there you go. How challenging coordinating this work across institutions?
I'm sorry, Melissa, that broke up a little bit for me.
Oh, okay. How challenging was it coordinating this work across institutions?
You know, it was fairly straightforward in that. So for Stanford, so Judy retired. I think they have like a remote work site where she's able to go in and actually do this work. And then in order for us to handle the payments, we set up Judy as an independent contractor through our business office, and then she sends us a monthly invoice for the hours that she's worked. And she just, however many hours she works, again, it's up to 20 hours a week, and then she just divides that in half, and she just bills us for that time on a monthly basis, and then we pay her directly as an independent contractor.
Great. Next question. This sounds like it was a pretty positive experience for you in Stanford. Can you speak more of the intangible benefits?
Yeah, I mean, the intangible benefits is just we're helping to unlock more and more of the HathiTrust collection for public access. So that's, we want as much of the corpus as possible open in the public domain. And so we're able to provide some funding to help achieve that goal. I don't know if that, yep.
Is this ongoing funding or with some time?
Yeah, so the funding, we have a donor who has been making an annual contribution to the library, to the university librarian, with the caveat that the money is used for open access. And so we're funding a variety of different things with that money. And it was, in a conversation with the university librarian, and was like, well, this is a great way to promote open access through funding this program. And the donor thought it was a great idea as well. So we've been using that money, and it continues to come in annually. But if for some reason the donor stopped giving this donation, or we decided we should redirect it in a different way, then I would identify other funding to continue this. So it's really dependent on Judy and her continued interest in doing this. And as a retiree, she takes time off and she's going to see family and do other things. And so it's not always 20 hours a week that she's putting into these reviews, but that's fine. She's making great progress.
Do you have any idea of the scope of collections that were reviewed?
We can pull reports and actually see what was reviewed, but we're not asking for anything. We're not asking for preference on any particular items. We're just helping to fund whatever's in the queue that is set up for reviewers to look at, if that answers your question.
Besides copyright review, what other opportunities for collaboration do you see?
Great question. Well, I think some of it is, I think as we look at various HathiTrust programs, I know that there's discussions around, how can we be more proactive and what gets added to the corpus. There's questions around, quality issues and rescanning and things of that nature. So I think I am sure there are other opportunities for collaboration. I think it's just a matter of just trying to be creative, think about what are the questions that we're trying to solve and address. And for us, it was a matter of just looking at copyright review and how could we become involved in that. And so realizing that we didn't have to find a staff person on our staff to do this, that we could actually, connect with other members and find a solution that way.
All right, so the next couple of questions, I'm going to throw out there. I'm kind of wishing that our copyright review manager was on the line here, because she might have more context for these questions, but I'll throw them at you anyway, Daniel. One, have there ever been challenges to the determination that a work is in the public domain, and if so, how were they handled?
That's a great question, and I would. It'd be great if Christina was on the call. Yeah. I mean, it's my understanding that the review process. So there's sort of two reviews are conducted, and if they're in agreement, then the item moves into the public domain. And if there's a disagreement, they go into a hold queue for further investigation. But how that's actually handled, I don't know.
And then the next one is also, yeah.
Yeah, I can confirm that is
yeah.
true, Danielle, that is true. There are multiple checkpoints and certain bibliographic fields that they use to validate and verify with each other. So, yep, there's some magic that happens behind the scenes, but definitely it's that multi-person quality check.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do know that if you can't if they can't determine, they always go on the conservative side, that it will remain closed if they have any doubt that it should be open, generally.
Yeah. This was a couple of years back, but I also had a conversation with Christina about some items that we had contributed to the corpus, where there were questions about whether the item should be in the public domain or not. And it turned out that our metadata just needed some cleanup, particularly the date fields in some of the records. And we actually received from Hathi a spreadsheet that allowed my colleagues in metadata management to go in and do some cleanup work. So while that wasn't, directly, it played into opening up some more things into the public domain because the date fields couldn't be properly read.
And can you talk a little more about?
Yep.
Sorry. Can you talk a little more about how Judys' work fits in with the overall copyright review program?
I think it's a matter of there's just this large amount of material that needs to be worked through. And so you need a lot of hands. And people who have experience doing these kind of reviews have built up that experience. And so I'm sure that they could use many, many, many more reviewers. And so this is, but again, with the group and the volunteers that are involved, they're making slow but steady progress. Sure, but steady progress.
Next question: how is the rate of pay determined?
We are following because she's retired, she's being paid at an hourly rate, and it's the hourly rate determined by Stanford. So we're just paying that rate. And we didn't have to negotiate this. We're just, I believe initially I had to fill out a sole source form just to say, that she has certain skills and abilities that we don't, there's not other contractors. It's kind of odd because we're setting her up. We're setting her up as a contractor, so we just had to be clear that there weren't other contractors. We weren't going to do a bid process. The amount of money involved didn't require that as well. So those were just some steps that we had to walk through, and there was some insurance forms and some things like that we had to fill out as part of setting her up in our payment system, in the university payment system. So we just jumped through those hoops.
Any more questions?
It wasn't that challenging. Sorry. I would just add, if there are further questions after the webinar, you have my contact information, so feel free to reach out to me.
Oh, there is a question. How would one learn about the copyright review process and get trained to perform this work? I can tell you that twice a year, Christina Hall here, our copyright review program manager, puts out a call for new reviewers, and we send that email to all member reps and primary contacts. We put it in our newsletter, and so watch for that. If you have suggestions of other ways you'd like us to communicate that, let us know. So these institutions, they commit so many FTE, they commit people to do this work, and then Christina, we register them with access to the copyright review system, and she does a great training program. She's just really great at running the program and helping everybody do this work. Any more questions?
Well, thank you.
And again, this is being recorded. We're going to post the recording, and we'll send you all a link as well. And feel free to contact us if you have any further questions about this project that Daniel was involved in, or HathiTrust copyright review in general. All right.
We'll also be sending you a survey. So we'll ask you in advance to complete that so that we can continue to improve this webcast series for all the different members who attend. Thank you.
Thank you very much all for coming.
Thanks.